I think that might have been it. Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. And
hold on, just want to make sure.
We still aren't live yet. Now we are.
Okay, good. Now.
Good to go? Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of our Healthy Relationships discussion. My name is Bradley Burris. I'm the Prevention Education Coordinator for People Against Rape, and my pronouns are they, them, she, hers. Last week, we defined a healthy relationship as one based on equality. Tanel described our basic psychological needs that motivate our behavior and how this influences our well-being. Brittany informed us that relationships are unique to the individual, that our relationships can change as our morals and values develop, and that each relationship, whether it be friends, families, or partners, should have healthy boundaries and understandings. Sydney explained the cycle of abuse and power dynamics, informing us about the different types of control, and that if anyone is questioning their safety, they can always reach out to community organizations for assistance, like People Against Rape and My Sister's House. If you have any additional questions about part 1, please feel free to contact any of us. So I'm going to go ahead and have the experts introduce themselves now. Tanel, you want to go first?
Good afternoon. As you know, I'm Tanel Jones. I am the health educator for Empower, and I'm licensed marriage and family therapist and licensed addictions counselor. So welcome. Amazing.
April?
Sure. I'm April Borkman. I'm the Director of Operations for the Empower program. So I work with Ms. Tanel. And I missed last week because I was on vacation. So I'm glad to be back.
Glad to have you back. Brittany?
Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Green. I'm the follow-up victim advocate for People Against Rape, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Sydney, you want to go next?
Good afternoon. I'm Sydney Conrad, and I'm the Director of Education and Training for My Sister's House.
And our special guest.
Hi, I'm Anaj.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Anaj. We're really excited to have you be a part of this conversation.
I will say that Anaj is we're calling her our community youth expert, because she represents the population that we're trying to reach with our information. So thank you for being here, Anaj.
Mm-hmm. So today we're going to do things a little different. We want everyone watching to leave with a skill set. We want you to know how to initiate a relationship, set boundaries, have healthy conversations before a sexual encounter, and know how to assess your safety throughout your relationship. We will do this by having each expert give a quick presentation on a different topic that will include application techniques. So we're going to go ahead and get started by having Tanel start the conversation. How can we initiate a relationship?
Okay, 1 second. Let me share my screen here. All right, so building healthy relationships, and last week that's what we talked about. So prerequisites to building healthy relationships include having a healthy sense of self, which is knowing who you are, knowing, like just what your purpose is. Sometimes people aren't aware of that often, but those things can be very helpful. I just want to make sure that this is showing up correctly. Hold on a second. So just hope everybody can see my PowerPoints. Are we good? Okay. So having a healthy self-esteem and knowing what's important to you and why those things are important to you, such as values. Those things can be integrity, acceptance, friendship, education. So what things are important to you and why they're important to you. Something else that I find, I do a lot of couples work. So I work with a lot of adults who are married or just in relationships. And one of the things that I think the biggest struggle is the definition of love. Everybody doesn't necessarily have the same definition of love based off of their experiences growing up or observing other romantic type relationships or other types of family relationships or friends. So defining love and what that means for you and what's the how in terms of how have you come to this conclusion or this definition, and why? Why are you now deciding that this is the definition that's going to be important for you? And there's different types of love. So if you are trying to have a healthy relationship with anybody, this is not just about romantic relationships. Again, just kind of what do you want that love to look like? And then another prerequisite that I would recommend are just reasons for wanting to be in a relationship. Know the reasons that you are ready for a relationship, and what kind of, like, what are you hoping to get out of a relationship? Because if you know in advance, and it may help you communicate clearly to your partner or even to your friends, if you're just trying to find a friend, what type of friendship that you want to be in. So here are just a few do's. These are not all of the do's that I would recommend, but these are just a few. Again, kind of do's when you are initiating relationships. Be confident in who you are. Notice something about the person that you're interested in other than physical characteristics, because sometimes physical things may change about a person. So know, like, hey, this person, they like to do play softball the way I do, or they like to listen to a certain type of music, or they really are kind. So again, kind of recognizing the values that you may share with that person, again, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, or sometimes even family. Another do is ask that person questions about their likes, dislikes, family, friends, values, beliefs, and goals. I know sometimes when you're initiating relationships, you may not talk about these things, but I encourage, if you're trying to get into a romantic relationship with someone on the first or second date, ask as many details as you can. This might also include, like, ask a person, tell me what's the worst thing you've ever done when you've gotten angry. And see if they tell you. So that might give you some clues as to how they communicate and how they manage their emotions. Ask about what their plans are. What are their goals and their dreams? Very important. So if they don't have anything that they don't want to do, and you have an idea about the type of relationship that you want to be in, then maybe that's an early on clue that, okay, this is not going to work for me. Number 4, always be honest about who you are and what you want out of a relationship. Don't go into an original relationship trying to hide any parts of yourself. I know that sometimes people say, oh, giving too much too soon might not be a good idea. But I've often known people or couples, when they start dating, they're only showing the parts about them that they think the other person might like. And so then when they move in together, they're exposing all these other things. And that's when the relationships typically start to have a breakdown. So just be open and honest about who you are up front, and then what you want out of a relationship. For example, if you know that you want to date other people, go ahead and tell that person. That gives them the ability to make a decision for themselves. So you're not taking that choice away from them by dating them and then secretly dating other people. And number 5, trust your instincts. Listen to your gut. If the relationship or something about this person doesn't feel safe or doesn't match what's important to you, then it's okay to go ahead and terminate that relationship and walk away. So those are just some very important do's that I wanted to share. Now we're going to go through some things about what to look for in a partner. You want to make sure that you're able to find someone supportive of other relationships in your life, and that they also have their own healthy relationships. So again, if you come in contact with someone and they don't have any healthy relationships, or they're kind of isolated and they're like, I don't like people, I would ask yourself, well, how would they like you if they don't like people? Because you are a person. So just, again, kind of make sure that you are asking them questions about other relationships in their life. Also ask them questions about the history of their relationships. Like, okay, if you had a relationship, how did it end? What did you learn from that relationship? What would you do different? Again, things that's important to establishing your own healthy foundation with that person. Make sure this person is someone who supports your personal growth. And also, as I'm going through these, you also want to make sure that they are able to do this for themselves and that you're able to do this for them. So who supports your personal growth and who is open to you supporting their personal growth. You want to look for somebody who can ask, someone you can ask for and listen to what you have to say, even if they don't always agree. I think sometimes in relationships, couples get to where they like, oh, this person doesn't agree with what I'm saying, so we don't need to be together. That's not necessarily the case. It's not the why you're disagreeing, it's the how you are disagreeing, but you want to make sure that that's something that you guys can talk about and be able to move through. And again, this applies to, even though I have what to look for in a partner, this is also applicable for friendships, just regular friendships as well. The other one is someone who is comfortable with you having different opinions and does not take it as a personal insult if you disagree. You want to make sure that they're okay. You guys don't always have to agree about everything or like the same things. Usually couples come in saying, we are very different. Can this work? Of course it can work. You just have to have that mutual respect of other people's, things that they like and dislike. Other things to look for in a partner, someone who you feel comfortable expressing your feelings and thoughts with. Again, if you feel like you can't tell somebody that you're sad because they're going to pick on you or call you names or whatever, or that, oh gosh, I had this thought about this, and they call you, oh gosh, you're stupid or you're crazy, then that might not be somebody that you want to be in a friendship or relationship with, or even be around as if you are in a familiar relationship with them, maybe kind of distance yourself. You want to make sure that the person that you choose also accepts responsibility for their own behavior, feelings, and thoughts. Okay, like sometimes, again, it's very easy for people to say, well, you made me feel this way. We all can say and do things that may be impactful, but ultimately everyone is responsible for their own feelings and managing their own thoughts and behaviors. So don't be in a relationship, or be careful about being in a relationship with someone who's constantly telling you that you made them do X, Y, Z. Choose someone who considers the relationship a partnership and shares in decision making. So if they feel like you're beneath them or they want to make all the decisions, then that may not be something that's going to lead to a healthy relationship. And someone who is okay with you managing your own money and never uses money as a way of getting what they want. So you want to make sure that, again, however you are with this person, if money is involved, that they're okay with you managing your own money. Okay, so something else, someone who makes positive statements about you and your strengths and themselves. So if they're kind of walking around like, I'm not a good person, I hate myself, or I can't do anything right, be cautious about that. Because again, now are you coming in this relationship trying to feel like you have to make this person feel good about themselves? That's an extra work, and it might cause more strain on the relationship. So you want to make sure they're able to say positive things about you and about themselves as well. I can't say this enough, choose someone who you ultimately feel safe with in all areas of your life. So very, very important. And someone who respects your boundaries, whatever those boundaries are, whether they're sex boundaries, spending time away for yourself boundaries, boundaries of you having other people, other friendships in your life. You just want to make sure they respect all of your boundaries. And then someone who can resolve conflicts without resorting to violence or put downs. So you want to make sure you're choosing someone who doesn't do that. And that's why I think it's important to ask people, tell me what's the worst you've done when you get upset, or, what is something you've done that you've regretted? Just those types of things, because it may give you some insight into how this person handles conflict. And then finally, you want to look for someone who treats themselves well. Again, how do they take care of themselves? Are they engaged in self-care? Do they do the basics? Because again, if they're not treating themselves well, then I can only imagine that it's going to be very difficult for them to treat you well. Or they may be get into a situation where they're self-sacrificing, so they focus on you and like they put everything into you. We kind of call that a codependent relationship there, where they're trying to make you well. That's the second part. Someone who's not trying to save you or rescue you or change you. So be cautious of people who come into your life to do that. Feel like they're your answer to everything, and they can fix you and fix your problems. Someone who doesn't play mind games to get your attention, whatever that is, be mindful of that. You want to look for someone who doesn't do those things. And last but certainly not least, this list is not complete. There are other things to look for, but someone who does not allow you to be hurtful or abusive to them. So if you find it if you find it easy to say mean things to this person and they're just kind of like okay with it, that's not a sign of a healthy relationship. And so those are just some of the points that I have to make on that topic. And so now I will pass it on back to Bradley. Unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I completely forgot. I know that we titled this Initiating a Relationship, but the whole time that you were talking, I realized these are also things that we need to do when we're reevaluating relationships. And while it may start this way, like especially with the do's and don'ts, when you were talking about, being honest about what you want, we already talked about how that changes so much. So when you're rethinking about, okay, is this a healthy relationship? You need to go through all those steps again to really know. So next we'll go to Brittany. Can you explain the importance of setting clear boundaries and utilizing healthy communication?
All right. It is not letting me share.
Now try.
Okay, there we go. All right. All right, so like Bradley said, we're going to be talking about communication styles and boundary setting. So here are the basic communication styles that you're going to see all over. There's a lot of personality tests or communication style tests that are online if you have trouble trying to figure out what yours is. So Google's awesome sometimes. So these main communication styles are passive aggressive, and assertive. Moving into passive, this is where you are more likely to yield to others. You have a hard time expressing what your needs are, what your feelings are, what your wants are to other people. Passive communicators might have a hard time saying no. Passive people might be easier to get along with because they just roll with the punches, they go with the flow, they do whatever it is that they feel needs to be done to keep the peace. They very much avoid confrontation. And very, to themselves as far as when it comes to their feelings and their emotions. They may also have a hard time understanding what their feelings and emotions are about a certain situation. With aggressive communication styles, this is usually somebody that's speaking very loudly, very dominant and demanding, can be viewed as intimidating and controlling. It's very much where the relationship is one-sided, where it's what that person wants, the other person's wants are not considered, the other person's wants do not matter. So next we have passive aggressive. Passive aggressive is where on the surface, people may be really relaxed and chill, but inside they're feeling, very, some resentment or some anger or some frustration, and they don't know how to get that out. So a lot of their communication is actually nonverbal, and it's more so with their body language and not necessarily what they say out their mouths. So they can, get aggressive once they feel like they're stuck or that they're powerless in a certain situation. There's still that fear of confrontation where, you don't want to say it to the person, but you might talk to somebody else and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling about this. And people that have a passive aggressive communication style, they usually utilize the silent treatment and sabotaging and spreading rumors. Instead of directly confronting the situation, they're going to go about these other ways. Assertive communication is the type of communication that we all hope to have in all of the relationships that we have, whether it be friendships, romantic relationships, sexual relationships, co-workers, all of it. You want to be open to expressing your own needs, your desires, your feelings, and your ideas. Everybody has their own thoughts about things. Everybody has their feelings about things. And they're all valid, and you deserve to be able to express yourself in a place where you feel safe, and that you will feel validated and honored. But there also is a consideration for other people and realizing that you are not the center of the universe. Yes, your priorities and your life is number one, but also taking into account that other people have desires, have wants, have boundaries that need respecting. And so the big thing is compromise. So, and also utilizing I statements. So when the conflict comes up, I feel blank when you blank. And that's a way to keep, as Tanel was saying, the responsibility for your own emotions on yourself, but also being able to express to somebody else that they've hurt you or that there's something that you're struggling with. And lastly, we have boundaries. So Tanel talked a little bit about boundaries, or a lot about boundaries in her presentation, but boundaries are any limits that you would have in your interactions with other people. A big thing, with me being from, People Against Rape is consent. When it comes to consent, are you respecting somebody else's right to say no? Are you respecting when somebody else's body language is saying no? Are you respecting when they're saying, I'm not sure? So being sure that you are, considerate of other people's feelings, but also understanding, your role in things. So when it comes to boundaries, these are present in every relationship that exists out in the world. They're even, important in relationship to yourself, making sure that your boundaries for yourself are healthy and that you're honoring your wants and your needs. So healthy boundaries would look like feeling responsible for your own happiness, having friendships outside of your relationship. So we have a lot of relationships in the media, for example, where it's all about their partner. It cannot be all about your partner. It's a partnership. It's both of you. Both of you have to be equally happy and equally equal power in the relationship. Healthy boundaries look like being open and honest, respecting differences, and asking honestly for what is wanted and accepting things. And I think a big part of healthy boundaries is knowing what your values are, what your goals are, what's important to you. Because if, being celibate is important to you, and somebody you're in a relationship with somebody and they're trying to push you into having sex or participating in sexual acts, then they're not respecting your boundaries. So leading into that, with unhealthy boundaries, this may look like feeling incomplete without your partner or relying on your partner for your own happiness, game playing, manipulating, jealousy, feeling unable to express what is wanted and unable to let go. So, with unhealthy boundaries, it creates an entanglement. It creates an, what's the word? I lost it. Codependency, there we go. It creates a codependency where the other person is so reliant upon you and you're reliant upon them to the point where you don't have an existence outside of each other. And as Tanel, wonderfully expressed, relationships are partnerships. They are not one person's, more important than the other. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Brittany. I do have, I guess, one question. So you touched on, passive individuals and going with the flow. And it seems to me that passive people would have a really hard time setting boundaries. Do you have any advice, or anybody for that matter, on someone who knows that they might be a passive person and wants to set more boundaries, but just struggles? Do you have any advice?
I would say the first thing is know thyself. Know what is important to you, know what matters to you. If you have no concept of self, if you have no idea of what you want for yourself and out of life, then it's going to be very difficult for you to identify what those boundaries are, where your limits are, and it's going to be even more difficult to say to someone else, this is what I need.
I would also add that sometimes it's okay to go to, as a therapist, go to counseling and find out maybe what are some things that's making it difficult for you to be assertive. And also that counselor should be able to teach you assertiveness training. So that's something that you can do if you find it very difficult to set boundaries or communicate your needs and wants to others.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So next we're going to move on to April. April, can you tell us how to have a conversation about sex with a potential partner or partners?
Yes, absolutely. So all of the things we talked about fit perfectly into and transition into my part very, very well. And I get the honor of talking about probably the most uncomfortable thing that people go, oh, do I really have to have this conversation? But you do. So let me pull up my PowerPoint. I think I'll have to share my screen first. Hold on one second. Yeah. let's see. I'm not sure if this is going to work to know. Can you check and make sure I'm able to share?
You are, but it's
Okay.
not sharing yet.
It's not what? I'm sorry.
You haven't shared it yet.
Yes. Well, let's try it and see what happens because I'm getting kind of a weird thing on my end. Let's see. All right. You see that?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So how to talk to a partner about how to talk about sex with a partner. So first, yes, it's going to be awkward. So just, it doesn't have to be as awkward as you make it out to be, but it will be a little bit awkward, especially the first time you have this conversation with a new partner. But the good news is that preparation and practice make perfect, and it will make it a lot easier to have this conversation with somebody. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that, and learning and practicing being assertive, as Brittany mentioned, is a key part of that. So why is it important? It's important. It's an important part of a healthy relationship, which is what we're talking about. And it's important that you talk with a partner to honor your values. So we've been talking a lot about values all the way through all of these live panels that we've been doing. And that's really the core. That's really where everything starts. Knowing your values, knowing what you want your life to look like and what's important to you, and making sure that the behaviors that you are engaging in support that. Expressing wants and needs appropriately so that you only do what you're comfortable doing, so that you don't end up doing something you don't want to do. And that's to protect yourself and to preserve your relationship. So if you learn how to talk about this effectively with a partner, it actually ends up I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about these things with their partner because they think it's going to damage the relationship in some way, especially if they have a different opinion on sex than their partner. But really what can happen is it can preserve your relationship and make your relationship stronger. So when do you do it? You do it before, and this is really key, especially for a lot of young people who might be watching, before you become sexual with a partner, not in the moment. In the moment, we're not always going to make the best decision. Doing it before provides an opportunity for you to tell your partner what you want and what's important to you and why. So going back to your values. And talking about it before means there's no surprises. There's no additional pressures that are happening in the moment because you've already set your boundaries. You've already been assertive and you've already said, this is what I like and don't like, and this is what I want to do and not do. And doing it before, if we feel pressure, again, we may make decisions that we wish we hadn't. So being prepared in advance will help prevent that. So how do you get started talking to a partner? And it really starts with you. It has to start with you. You have to do some work beforehand, which I think is kind of a theme of what we've been talking about this whole time, is that it all starts with you. Develop your sexual values and boundaries. So think about why you want to be or don't want to be sexual with somebody. And then, and in doing that, think about, what does being sexual mean to you? It might mean one thing to you and a different thing to a partner. How does it change how you feel about yourself? Does it make you feel good about yourself? Does it not make you feel good about yourself? How does it affect your core values? So who you want to be? Does it affect them positively or negatively? Is it because you care for the person, or is it just about feeling good in the moment? And is it because you're being pressured? So developing your sexual values and boundaries and making sure you're evaluating the reason that you want to be sexual with somebody or don't want to be sexual with somebody to begin with. And then going through and making a list of benefits and consequences to being sexual with somebody. And this might change from partner to partner, by the way. So this is something that a process that you may work through throughout your life, depending on who you're with at the time. So make a list of benefits and consequences to being sexual with a particular person. And then decide if the benefits and consequences to being sexual with somebody are worth the risks. And only you can make that decision for yourself. If you decide that you want to be sexual with somebody, create a list of ways that you can reduce your risk from unplanned pregnancy or STIs or HIV. Think about other sexual behaviors that maybe aren't as risky, that don't involve the exchange of body fluid or skin-to-skin contact, where you can contract an STI. Getting tested for HIV and STIs in advance, both partners, and then decide that you will only be sexual if you use a condom is another option as well. And then practice, 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 and be assertive. As Brittany said, use I statements when you're communicating with a partner. And it can be really intimidating and scary. So start by role playing that with like a friend or a trusted adult. And I put develop comebacks. So think about, anticipate what a partner might say to you and develop ways to navigate that conversation in advance and practice that. So if you think a partner is going to be like, if you've decided that you don't want to be sexual yet and a partner is going to pressure you to be sexual, develop ways that you can respond to that commentary that you might get from that partner. And then practice over and over and over again. The more you talk about it, the more confident you're going to be, the easier it's going to be for you, the more comfortable you're going to be with the discussion. So really talking with a partner about sex really starts with you. You have to do a lot of preparing and planning. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you want, what you don't want. And you have to know why you want to be sexual with somebody, and then you have to practice that conversation. And I just say to be continued, because I think that in a future, very soon live panel, we're going to actually be practicing some of those things. And so we'll walk you through what I mean by being assertive and role playing and developing comebacks and practicing. Do you have any questions?
I have a question, or something that I think comes up a lot with youth, particularly when we're talking about like initiating sexual encounters or even just relationships in general. What do you do when you're interested in someone and maybe you're ready to have that conversation, but then you start hearing rumors about this person's, past sexual history, or, negative, just negative qualities about this person, and it kind of, changes the way that you think about them? What would you say to someone who's wanting to go through all the healthy steps, but is struggling with this also?
Well, I mean, I think that you have to, then if you start hearing negative things and it starts making you change your mind, then maybe that's a sign, right? Maybe that's a clue that you're not ready for this conversation with this particular person. If you decide that you still want to pursue that, I think just being upfront and honest. You have to talk about your sexual history with a partner. You have to be willing to talk about your sexual history with a partner, and they have to be willing to talk about it with you. Excuse me. As well. And I think you have every right to ask, hey, these are the rumors and these are the things I've heard. What can you tell me about those things? 99% of the time it is just rumor, right? The rumor mill has a tendency to blow things out of proportion. So I think having a conversation directly with somebody is very, very helpful. But before you even do that, decide, is it worth it? Starts with you, always starts with you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. So hopefully we'll be doing soon in the near future, you'll see some of this activity in action. And we'll be doing some role play activities coming up soon. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, April. All right.
And share here. Sorry, hang on. How do I unshare it all? I can't hear you.
Hit stop share, hit the stop button, like where you see view out. Just click up top. You say you're viewing April's screen. No.
I do not see that on my end, so I don't know if you're able to
see
stop
where
sharing
go
on yours.
Up top. Yes. No. Go up top. You see the little green where it says you're viewing April.
Yes, I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, Sydney, last week you described the cycle of abuse to us. How does someone assess their safety in any relationship? And how can someone end a relationship in a safe and productive way?
Great question, and so important. In healthy relationships, we should feel safe, respected, accepted for who we are. And in unhealthy relationships, you could feel anxious, confused, uncertain, and then unsafe. So assessing safety might sound relatively simple, and when we consider physical safety, it might be easier, but emotional safety in a relationship is really important and not as easy to do or recognize. But knowing those differences is so important for your health and your emotional well-being in that relationship, both friendships and romantic. And it's important to know that no matter how long you've known someone or been in a relationship with them, if you feel unsafe, you have the right to end that relationship. Really quickly, a couple examples of threats to your physical safety are when someone might threaten to hurt themselves or other people you care about, could be a sign that they could hurt you in the future. If someone possesses a weapon and you see them carrying it around, holding it for you to see, especially during an argument, it's very dangerous. If someone drives too fast with you in the vehicle, scares you purposefully and thinks it's funny, that's a really unhealthy sign. If you're arguing and they block you from leaving a room or control your physical movement, it's a sign of potential physical danger. If someone destroys property or breaks something, even if they never physically touch you or hurt you, that's still a sign of future physical danger. Even when you're arguing, you should not feel unsafe or in danger. It's not unhealthy to fight, but there are healthy ways to have an argument resolve conflict without ever endangering someone or threatening or intimidating them. You should always feel physically safe. And if you ever feel unsafe physically, seek help from a friend, a trusted adult, or a professional, and take steps to end that relationship. But assessing our emotional safety is harder to do. It's harder to recognize. But again, the more we think about it, the more we think about ourselves and what we want in a relationship, the easier it will be. Again, continuing that same theme, knowing ourselves is so important to be in a healthy relationship. So 6 things, and write these things down. Consider these in your lives. Journaling is a really healthy way to express ourselves, write down things that are important to us, remind ourselves of things. So 6 things we want to consider for emotional safety in a relationship: respect, feeling heard, understanding, validation, empathy, and love. So we want to think about these things. Do we have these in our relationship? Do we have them for our partner? Does our partner have them for us? Do we have them for our friends? And do our friends have them for us? They're so important. We're going to break each one down just a little bit to better understand respect. We should be valued for what we believe, for what makes us us, what makes you unique. Someone shouldn't try to change you, change what you like to do, what you wear, how you look. If you don't have respect in a relationship, you could feel criticized or judged. Are you heard? Are you able to express your concerns, how you feel about something, talk about hopes and dreams for the future, and your partner or your friend listens to you, talks to you about those things, doesn't make you feel small, doesn't tune you out, talk over you, or make you feel like what you're saying isn't important? Are we understood? Does your partner get you? Do they know what upsets you? Things in your past that they should be sensitive to, things that make you happy. If we don't feel understood, it may feel like our words are being twisted and communication is very, very difficult. Are we validating each other? Do you feel validated and do you validate your partner? Do you support someone's opinions? Do you recognize and accept someone having thoughts, feelings, or actions that are different from your own? But you still, you might not necessarily agree with them, but you recognize they're allowed to feel those things. Again, as long as they're not threatening anyone's safety or endangering anyone. Do we have empathy for each other? Do you care about each other? Are you kind? Acknowledge each other, encourage, show interest in what someone has to say. This is a really important one out of these different types. Someone who lacks empathy doesn't consider other people's feelings, might consider someone else to be less important than themselves, or even see other people as objects, which is incredibly dangerous in a relationship. And the last, love. This is so important. And this is sort of a combination of those previous 5 things. It encapsulates all of those 5 things. When we feel loved, we're understood, we're comfortable being ourselves, we're encouraged to pursue our hopes and dreams, we're supported. Without having those high levels in those other 5 areas, it's hard for us to truly feel loved. There's a couple really practical tools and helpful quizzes if you wanted to go online to loveisrespect.org. There is a healthy relationship quiz. It can help you sort of identify some of those things. But again, those 6 areas that are so important, one more time: respect, feeling heard, being understood, validation, empathy, and love. So if we're in an unhealthy or an abusive relationship and we decide that we want to, we're considering, do we stay together? Do we want to end this relationship? No, you might want to stay with that person, but consider why we're doing that. Are we going to put in the time and energy and have that open communication with our partner, set boundaries to really work towards making that relationship healthy if we think we can do that? It will take a lot of work. We should always remember, just like Tanel said, at the end of the day, you can only control your own behavior. You can't control someone else's. We should never enter a relationship or stay in a relationship thinking that we can fix the other person, thinking that we can change another person. Expecting them to change is not realistic. So if we are thinking about breaking up with someone or ending a friendship and we feel like we are not safe, don't be alone with that person. Let other people know when you're spending time with them so that you're safe. Keep your phone on you so you can reach out for help. When you're planning to break up with someone, think about your life without that person. They've been a big part of your life. Maybe you've been friends for a long time, you've been dating for a long time. Lean on your support system. Talk to other friends, talk to family. Bring in new activities or old activities you used to enjoy to fill your free time. You've probably, if your partner was controlling or jealous, you might not have made your own decisions. So start making small decisions. And if you feel overwhelmed, again, utilize your support system. They're there for you. You might miss that person a lot. We all enjoy having people that care about us around us. And if someone is now not in our lives anymore, we've been used to having them around, you might miss them. Even if they were abusive and controlling, it's going to be normal to miss that person. Write down, again, in that same journal, write down in your journal why you're ending that relationship. Keep it as a reminder for yourself so you can look back. Maybe if you've forgotten the hard times that you've had and you're remembering the good, you say, why did I end this relationship? Write those things down and write down the things that you have always wanted to do or the things that you stopped doing because of that person, because they were controlling and not letting you do that. You might be scared about ending that relationship. Take that fear seriously. Again, utilize your support system and consider putting together a safety plan. This is going to be considering the different areas of your life that you might come into contact with that abuser, with that person that was making you unsafe, and it lets you plan. Again, just like April said, in the heat of the moment isn't the time to be making clear decisions. In a crisis isn't the time to be planning for your safety. Planning ahead is the safest option. Knowing that ending an unhealthy or an abusive relationship is not like ending a healthy one, and your partner might not accept that breakup or respect your boundaries. They might try to guilt you, threaten you, insult you. It might be a really hard process, and it might not be peaceful or mutual like you would have with a healthy relationship. Know if you want to end that relationship, you have the power to do that. It is your decision, even if your partner does not want to end the relationship. Continue to lean on your support system, and when you're breaking up with them, let them know that you're doing that. Let them know where you'll be. Even have them there, maybe somewhere nearby. Again, have your phone on you. Be as safe as possible. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to tell them why. You just let them know you're ending that relationship. Trust yourself, trust your gut, and follow through with what you know is right. After ending the relationship, you might feel relieved, but do know if your partner was or your friend was unhealthy or abusive, that doesn't mean that there's no risk for violence anymore, that you're safe from that person. Continue safety planning and talk to your support system, talk to your school counselor, your resource officer at school. Let other trusted adults know, let other people around you know what's going on. If your ex or your old friend sends you harassing messages or does things to threaten you, take screenshots of that, save that. If you need that, maybe to report to law enforcement or to show to someone else to keep you safe. Again, it's not easy ending a relationship. There are tools and resources out there to help you do that. There are people to support you doing that. My Sister's House can support you with safety planning, and there are quite a few tools that you can find online as well. Everyone deserves to be loved, respected, and be safe in their relationships. And you always have the right to decide if you want to stay in that relationship or leave.
Thank you, Sydney. That was I'm like processing it all. And I think one of the biggest questions I have, and this is relevant for all stages of life, but I think it's particularly relevant for youth who are in a relationship. How do you navigate a situation where maybe your support system, your friends and your family are criticizing your relationship with your partner, and maybe, you don't see it as being unhealthy? I mean, of course, there's parts of it where you're unsure about, but it's just, you don't see it the same way, but you have so many people around you, commenting on that. How do you dissect all that information?
Right. Yeah. And that's hard because you might say, well, I know this person so much better than you do. Maybe they don't see how wonderful you are when we're alone. But what we want to consider is that our friends and family know us really well. Talk to them and ask them, instead of being defensive, say, what is it about this person that you don't like? What is it about the relationship that you don't like? What is it about me in this relationship that you don't like? We shouldn't change drastically in a relationship. When we're in a healthy relationship, we're still us. We're maybe just the best versions of ourselves, right? Healthy relationships should bring out the best in us. We should be happy, enjoying life together. And if our friends and family are not liking the relationship, maybe it's because we've become withdrawn, maybe because we only want to spend time with that person. We've changed in some way. So talking to them and being understanding and open and willing to hear that, which it can be really hard. We might really care about someone, but if we have negative changes in our lives based on that relationship, we should consider, is this healthy? What's changed about me? Have I used to love running or making music or doing different creative things, but now that I'm with this person, all I do is spend time with them. We go out to eat and we play video games. And say, but you used to be such a vibrant, healthy, outgoing person, and now you're not. Or, any changes, any drastic changes. So I think it's important that we have open and honest conversations with friends and family about why they don't like that relationship, what they think should change. And maybe that means we end the relationship. We realize that it's not healthy. Maybe it means we realize, I really have forgotten who I am. I need to come back to who I am. And so we incorporate some of those old activities, those hobbies, things that we enjoy. And we do that with our partner. Again, like Tanel and Brittany were saying, we are expressing ourselves, we're setting boundaries, we're saying, these are things that I need in a relationship. Maybe I didn't realize it at first, but now I do. Again, we can reassess that. And hopefully our partner would hear us and say, oh yeah, man, I didn't realize you liked to do that. I never want you to give something up for me. Let's do that together. That's healthy, that's awesome. We can maybe work on building that relationship. But if that person says, well, yeah, I know you used to do that, but that's lame. And, I'm glad you don't play the violin anymore or whatever. Well, that's putting something down that you enjoy doing. And that's not someone who's supportive of you. That's not someone who's understanding you. Those 6 things again, right? So understanding how important those things are in a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We're now going to turn to our community youth expert. Anaj, are you there? I can see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, So what are your thoughts about everything that we've just discussed? Typically, how do you think teens learn about relationships, and which of these do you find to be harder for teens to do?
Well, starting with everything I heard, everything was definitely true. I felt like I could relate, and I know a lot of people, of course, in my age category, who could most definitely relate to a lot of the things that were said. But I think definitely the hardest thing to do is definitely finding like the reasons why you shouldn't be in a relationship when it's unhealthy. Because I've done it, I've seen my friends do it, like basically the fact that you shouldn't be in a relationship with the person. And I think the youth definitely struggles with that all the time. So I feel like that'd be the concept for everyone to grasp, and definitely figuring out. A lot of people would have a hard time evaluating themselves, like, oh well, this.
Oh no.
Oh no, we lost her.
Do you have a way to contact Anaj? Oh wait.
There we go. Okay.
Hey.
What was the last thing you heard?
You're breaking up a little bit. The last thing I heard is you kind of discussing your friends and yourself struggling with relationships. So if you just kind of want to like backtrack a little bit, it broke up.
Okay. So I just feel like just that would be a hard concept to grasp, the fact that like when you shouldn't be in relationships and like things aren't working, figuring out why it's not working. I feel like that's the hardest concept for the youth to grasp nowadays. I know it's a hard concept for me to grasp, for I know a few of my friends as well. Just trying to figure out like what's best for you and if you should and shouldn't be in a relationship. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So I definitely have a question of, we are definitely doing this for youth, but we do have a lot of other community partners and, parents who are probably watching. What would you say is the best thing that parents or other community people can do to create better environments for teens and youth to have healthy relationships and rely on support systems?
I think definitely being supportive, understanding, but I just also feel like making sure your kids, like as a parent, making sure your child's around a good age where their mind is more mature, because of course you don't want your kid to get all attached to a person and then the person ups and leaves or it doesn't work out and your kid's hurt. Like I feel like parents should also very much pay attention to that, like make sure their kid is okay mentally first. Before getting into a relationship and it getting too much for them. But I also feel like they should also evaluate the person that their child is with, or even if it's not their child, someone they care about and they're grown and the kid is of course younger, like in their teens, evaluate who they're with first before they get with them and let them know like, hey, like pay attention to this. And I think it'd be easier, and that way, the kids having the boyfriend or girlfriend meet the parents and things like that to make it easier, gain more trust. And so you know, like you don't really necessarily have anything you need to hide. And I don't know, just to, I guess, give some more, I guess, closure to the people in a relationship. It would help if their families are more involved and beforehand too, not just when they're.
Oh no.
And she's back.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, my connection keeps going in and out.
There's no worries. So I guess another question is, how do you think teens typically learn about relationships? What influences it in your opinion?
Definitely social media. I feel like because everyone watches YouTube, everyone's into YouTube. There's all these YouTube couples who go on YouTube and it looks perfect, like, and everybody's like, oh, I want that, I want this. But it's like it's not always like that. It kind of sets off like this fairy tale theme of a relationship, and that's how the youth learns about it, and that's how they expect it to be. And then when it's not, things just go wrong. Like everything just goes wrong all of a sudden. And I feel like that's a big problem because no one ever discusses the actual things that go into a relationship, just the cute things where you post on social media and go on dates and, just the good parts. No one's ready for like the conversations and the long nights and the arguments and things like that. And I feel like once the youth learns about it more, then it would be easier. But that's how they see relationships right now, just as fairy tales, not really as like a lifelong commitment kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like I see that too, especially when those couples break up and you see how invested everybody was.
Yes.
It really shows you just like how much we really look at those as the ideal relationship.
Right.
Do y'all have any other questions?
No, I do not. Thank you, Anaj, for sharing
Thank you.
your youth experience.
Yeah. I definitely needed to hear a lot of those things.
Next topic, distracted driving.
Yeah, see, yeah.
Yeah. Young people tell you.
As long as it's safe driving, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Do y'all have any final thoughts before we start wrapping up today?
I just want to say thanks again, Anaj, and I hope you'll come back.
I definitely will come back if Janelle invites me.
Yeah, I really I want you to be a part of the role playing that we're going to be doing. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Well, I guess my final thought is, I love that you said, Anaj, that you needed to hear this. I needed to hear it too. I think we all need to hear it like pretty consistently throughout our lives. So thank you all for being here, especially Anaj, just because we do really need that perspective, how we all see relationship changes as, technology develops and life just continues to progress. So it's important that we stay connected and not just talk about a population that we're not a part of.
Right.
So once again, thank you again for tuning into our second discussion about healthy relationships. We understand that during this time, you may be reevaluating some of your own, and that is okay. Relationships and people change all the time, but your safety is always the most important. Next week, we plan to continue our discussion about healthy relationships by practicing some of the skills we presented today. To find out more information about upcoming conversations, please continue to check People Against Rape and Empower social media accounts. If you have any particular questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. Thank you so much again. Bye.
Thank you.